Welcome to Iroko Post TV. We're here in New York. We're talking to the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress, Mr. Tony Nnadi. Mr. Nnadi, welcome to Iroko Post TV.
Thank you very much.
We know that you are here in the United States and you've been traveling, meeting members of the Congress. And this is happening almost at the same time that the Vice President of Nigeria is also here traveling and talking to people in the Foreign Affairs Department. Okay. What's going on? Are they connected?
Well, if not for the news coming out from his own visit because of the pronouncements he made being reported, I probably wouldn't have known that there's anything connecting. But looking at the news coming out from his own visit, I could say his visit is in response to my visit. I've been here since the beginning of June. We had some 2 weeks of closed sessions with the congressional roundtables on the subject matter that brought me, and we went on to the Senate the week after. And what were we discussing? The happenings and the goings on in Nigeria, in which it appears there is an overrunning of the territory by people who were called Boko Haram in one breath, in another breath called Fulani Haedsmen, and then now there's a new tag, banditry, bandits, and all of that. And what we came to take a look at what is really going on in the place. Is it farmers and herdsmen that are clashing, like it's been reported? What we came to tell the United States is that there's no such thing, that it is an invasion by aliens into the sovereign territory of Nigeria, and that invasion is one in which they are killing and dislodging indigenous populations in a military style. It's like a measured operation being advanced downwards towards the sea. And if you were expecting that the government that is supposed to have charge over security of the citizens will be the ones looking out for these invaders, you were wrong, because the victims, the ones who are still alive to tell their stories, are all they're together. Whether you went to southern Kaduna, or you went to Chibok, or you went to Agatu, or you went to Birom, all the stories are the same. That Fulani militia, very heavily armed, are the ones doing the havoc, and that the military and the police have not, they seem not to be interested in standing the way of these people. And you go further back to when General Danjuma did say categorically that the government and the armed forces that are supposed to be defending these indigenous populations are actually in collusion with those invaders. And you read more recently, General Obasanjo, the former president, also talking about Fulanization as the motive. That is, the motive for this invasion is to take over this land and become the owners of the new land. Of course, there's the question of all the killers being Muslims, Islamic jihadists, and all those who are victims, whether they were in Agatu, or they were in Chibok, or they were in Adara, they are Christians. So anyhow anybody wants to look at it, if you put a map to it, you begin to see that all the killings are taking place in this white part, the middle belt, the western Nigeria, and the lower Niger territory. And those who are doing the killings, like we saw in the hearings, all from because the Senate, the congressional roundtables invited all of the victims to come to narrate their stories, and they are all from this part, the middle belt, you know, and every one of the victims talked about the Fulani that came to do the same kind of thing that the other victims have talked about. And when you look at it, it becomes something that has geography to it, that these people are coming, and the qualification for being killed is that you were Christian and you were indigenous population. Everything else, you know, goes to nothing. And when that is the case, and we came to say that it is not farmers and herdsmen clashing, that it is invasion by an alien, militia, the Fulani militia. First they operated as Boko Haram, now they call themselves Fulani Haedsmen, and they are now called bandits, but doing exactly the same business. And you saw the vice president coming in to say, oh no, that all of these things have been exaggerated. You know, it was that response of his that tied him to what we came to tell those who could help, those who have been wondering what's going on in the place. So I would say that his visit is directly tied to what we have been doing the last 2 weeks at the Capitol Hill.
Now, the people in Congress that you've been meeting, how did they respond to your presentation, the story that you're telling them, and other people who also were part of that?
Well, it was clear like daylight that because they had to probe, though there are some of the things that happened in the place, the rules under which these hearings are taking place, they're not open hearing. So there's a limit to what I can share at this time. But I can assure the viewers that those who have responsibility and who have authority to act on behalf of the United States took their time to listen to all the sides. And part of what we can share at this stage is that they got through the many layers of falsehoods that have been used to create narratives upon which policy had been based, because the foreigners who have, for instance, the United States that has to decide what it does here or there, will have to act on what it knows. So what has happened is that there have been a deliberate crafting of false narratives to deceive, and what we went to do basically was to remove those thick veils of falsehood, those narratives that have been used to cover the crime being committed, the genocide being driven by these same people. And incidentally, the fact that the one who's president and commander-in-chief over Nigeria at this time is himself Fulani, and when they're talking about herdsmen and their cows, he's also a herdsman. The only business he ever declared since he left the army is rearing of cows, and he's the life grand patron or so of the Miyetti Allah, the association of cow owners that had consistently and unabashedly claimed responsibility for the activities of these murderous herdsmen, who all happen to be Fulani. So when you look at the fact that we have to dissect, we have to lift all kinds of covers here and there. When you look at the fact that when you begin to listen to what the president himself had said and done concerning the killings going on, and you look at what people around him had said and done, for instance, he himself, the governor in Benue, had gone to cry to his commander-in-chief that these people were being killed. And he said, oh, you go back to the place and learn how to live in peace with the Fulani of Benue. That was his answer. And the governor had to go scratching his head for what to do. You had the chief of army staff, I think, Boratai, talking about grazing roads that have been, overtaken by development. That if people wanted peace, they should remove all of the so that the cows can move freely. They call them ancient grazing roads. That's the chief of army staff that is supposed to be chasing after those invaders. Then you listen to the Inspector General of Police of the time, who says, "Oh no, all of you who are passing anti-open grazing bills must remove those laws to allow unfettered movement of cows into everywhere they choose to go." And the spokesman of the president, of course, turning around to say, if you want to be alive, Femi Adesina, he says, you better give up your land instead of being killed. So in all of it, you come to the conclusion that the charge of Danjuma, that there is a collusion, and that the armed forces are actually the ones facilitating the movement of these invaders, because not one of them is under arrest as at this moment. So it doesn't take so much of, you don't have, it's not nuclear science to see that there's something wrong with that kind of setting.
Now let me ask you, yes? What are you demanding or asking the United States to do?
We remember we came in January, we were telling them that, yes, we're in trouble, but there's a bigger trouble that we needed the US to see and to act before it becomes something that can no longer be controlled in the manner we are asking. What we're asking is that the US appoints a special envoy that will go and sit down to see, the truth from this this official falsehoods that have been, piled up all over the place, which the poor vice president had come to try to re-establish. The truth has been excavated. Things are going to happen based on that truth. Those who are still hoping to drag everybody back to falsehood are just going to be waiting in vain. And in asking the United States to move now and cordon what is developing, we have so that we can see how it connects with the United States. Here is the map of West Africa. The red encirclement is the area covering all from Chad through Niger to northern Mali and all the adjoining territories, and the whole of Nigeria, including Cameroon to the east. This is a territory that is in immediate danger of being taken down by the ISIS that had been dislodged in the Middle East. What happened was that ISIS just relocated, and in relocating to West Africa, the local franchise that it began with was Boko Haram. You remember that at the peak of Boko Haram's glory, they had exchanged flags and all kinds of pledging allegiances to ISIS. So it is actually ISIS that had come to dig in this sub-region. And with Boko Haram, the elections of 2015 produced the outcome we saw. And then from the day of that victory, we saw Haedsmen, the same forces, the same Fulani, and they became something as Fulani Haedsmen, and now they are being called bandits. But because while we say they are Fulani doing the same thing everywhere, all the victims of those of the banditry, the kidnaps we are talking about, and the general recklessness with human life, all the victims who came out alive have the same stories of Fulani who kidnapped them and who were with them in the forest, whether it happened in the north or happened in the south, all over the country. So we positively, posit that it is the same Boko Haram that became Fulani Haedsmen that are now bandits, because they want to remove that Fulani tag from it. They want to remove the jihad it represents, since all the victims are Christians. So we were telling the US that if something is not done to quarantine these 12 states, like we could get it better from this map. All of this red circle, this portion circled in red, are these 12 states that adopted Sharia and now executing jihad. And we're saying to them that if nothing happens, you can see all of what they've already done in Nigeria to cripple everybody else. Since they took charge of all the armed services, all the agencies of the armed services of Nigeria are headed by Fulani elements, whether you were talking about the army or the police or the air force or the DSS, all of them, including institutions like immigration and customs. Every institution that has to carry gun around is now in the hands of these same people whose kinsmen are the ones invading everybody. And what you hear the president say is to disarm all of those who may have one dang gun or the other to even, so we're in a situation where if nothing happens to stop what is going on, they're going to take down the rest of Nigeria. And when they've dug in, they will have in their control the entire treasury of Nigeria they already have, the entire armory of Nigeria they already have. And by the time there's no resistance that can be expected from all of this. These are basically ungoverned spaces as at this time. Libya already went back. Sudan is in this situation. And you saw the two governors from Niger that came to campaign with Buhari in the last elections, meaning that between them there are no borders. And while the rest of us are struggling with what will happen with Nigeria, these guys are more focused on their caliphate, Islamic caliphate. The same thing they went to try to do in the Middle East with Syria and Iraq is what is being replicated here. And we are telling the United States, if we don't move quickly, we have something that will be in excess of 250 million people that will be dislodged. And this caliphate is going to have in his hands the proceeds of all the 3 million barrels of crude oil that had to go from Nigeria every day as money to execute their global campaigns. And we know who the attackers will be.
Now, the people you met, what is their reaction? Did they listen, and did they promise to do anything?
I can assure you that they listened, and they didn't want any conjectures. That was why they went, all the way, whatever it took, to bring the victim, the actual. You remember the one of those who had to testify, the mother of the Leah that is still held by Boko Haram. You had the people from Adara, the daughter of the Adara chief that El-Rufai, had to go to detain after the killing of their paramount ruler and all of that. So they got, and the one from Agatu area was actually a survivor who saw the invasion in which more than 800 people were killed in a matter of days. So they took their time to listen, and I can tell you, they understood what we were saying, because there were also responses, like I said, some of the things that is still ongoing. We're going back in the middle, because it has to be advanced to where some concrete action will have to take place. And, that's where we are.
All right. Thank you.